곤이를 어떻게 할 건데?
걱정하지 마. 피는 내가 볼 텐게.
적당히 좀 봐주면 안 돼?
봐줘. 이야, 인생 족같아도 사랑은 영원하다. 뭐 이거요? 응? 우리 정마담이 어쩌다 이렇게 순정파가 됐냐? 그동안 들인 공이 있으니까 호구도는 5대5로 가자고?
손이 거치네. 8대2. 내가 8이야. 싫으면 법대로.
This is the standard a crime film should have. Immediately upon its release, it wins the box office championship for 2 consecutive weeks. Ultimately, it becomes the only gambling film in the top 10 of the Korean box office. The story adapts from the comic of the same name created by its authors. The director, through the perspective of a small character's comeback, directly brings the darkness behind the beautiful scenery of the casino to the big screen. The joint performance of Blue Dragon Best Actress Kim Hae-soo and Jo Sung-woo vividly showcases the supremacy of the gambling table and the priority of profit. The story begins with a carpenter's curiosity, seeing his boss win a large sum of money in an instant. Goni cannot resist and joins the card game, with a simple game like Watu, which is about comparing sizes. If he is lucky enough to win 3 rounds, he can live a life free from worries about food and clothing. But reality teaches him a harsh lesson. Looking at the piles of money in front of everyone, Goni freezes in disbelief. He never expects that in just a few rounds he loses everything he has worked for over the years.
해장국이라도 하나 사 먹고 들어가라. 온 이름에는 속술이잖아요.
From then on, Goni becomes completely dejected, and he does not even want to return to the factory. However, just as he despairs, his older sister suddenly returns home. Goni is very excited because he clearly knows that his older sister must have received a large alimony payment after her divorce. If he can get it, he can not only win back his money with interest, but also perhaps buy a bigger house for his. So, while his family sleeps, Goni secretly takes all of his older sister's savings. Feeling the refreshing breeze on his face, Goni secretly vows that if he loses everything again this time, he is seeking an exit. Unexpectedly, as soon as he arrives at the factory, a man from the same village stops him.
이따가 팔땡이 떨어지면 판 좀 켜주라.
뭔 소리야? 팔이 떨어지지.
무조건 판만 켜. 네 본전은 내가 돌려줄게.
At first, Goni does not take it seriously. But after only a few rounds, he actually gets a pair. After observing the expressions of the people, at this moment, he completely believes the man's words. He sees the cash in the middle piling higher and higher. The greed in Goni's heart instantly breaks free from its cage. He immediately bets all the money in his hand. As long as he wins this round, he will instantly transform from a nobody to someone important. When he hears that the last person has a black card, Goni immediately reaches for the pile of money.
곤이야, 길을 그리 재수가 없냐? 자, 굿땡. 이야, 죽인다. 아니, 아까 검은 거 그랬잖아. 아, 멍청한 새끼가. 야, 잘 봐. 이 귀중에 시커먼 거 있잖아.
Just as he is speaking, Mosok suddenly makes a move from the side. While hitting him, he questions the man why he did not switch the cards. At this moment, Goni realizes he has been tricked. Unable to contain his anger, he immediately rushes forward to demand his money. But before he can even speak, the person behind him knocks him unconscious. After he wakes up, Mosok and the others are already gone. He learns from the factory manager that he originally intended to cooperate with Mosok to scam money. It now seems the others are actually in on it together. Based on the address provided by the factory manager, Goni immediately finds Mr. Nam. But he is told Mosok did not share any money with them at all and instead left Namwon directly.
얘는 왕무석이는 어딨어? 인천. 그래, 송도로 간다고 그랬어.
But after Goni rushes there, he not only does not find Mosok but also loses several million more. He is then carried out by the guards. But at this moment, Goni has nothing left to lose and rushes back with a machete. His goal is very clear. It is the cash on the table. As the guards surround him, Goni quickly raises his knife to threaten them. His desperate ferocity immediately piques the curiosity of an old man nearby.
쇠사슬!
아, 예.
너 나한테 빚이 얼마니?
613만 원 주게 됐다.
웃든 걸로 하고 저 갓나 새끼 그냥 보내라. 아, 모르는 놈한테 왜 그러세요? 모르긴 왜 몰라. 잘 알지. 갈 때까지 간 놈. 야야야, 비켜. 저리 가.
야, 니네 박문석 알아? 박문석? 합천 박문석, 어?
너 저 양반 때문에 운 좋은 줄 알아. 다 챙겨가고 다시는 오지 마.
어? 저 사람 뭐야? 아저씨 두목이야?
When he learns that the man is Pyong, the most skilled swindler in the country, Goni quickly grabs his money bag and chases after him, because he knows very well that compared to finding Mosok, becoming Pyong's apprentice is much more reliable. This way, he can not only earn a lot of money but also gain respect from others. However, after he expresses his desire to become an apprentice, Pyong asks to read his palm first.
넌 화토 배우지 말라. 길에서 객살 팔자다야.
He thought Goni would retreat after facing the difficulty. But Goni waits outside the door for an entire night. Pyong is very pleased. Actually, from the first time the two met, he notices that Goni is very similar to his younger self. So he develops the idea of taking Goni as his last apprentice. But in this line of work, resilience alone is not enough.
저치한테 한번 죽도록 맞아보고 와서?
네. 근데 왜 그래야만 하나요?
뭔 이유가 있어서 돈 잃고 매 맞아서 이 새끼야?
Goni rushes forward without thinking. Unexpectedly, he is toyed with by the opponent. Then he is beaten until he loses the ability to resist.
이제 지셔야 되는 겁니다.
너 사람 죽일 수 있간?
에?
직사도록 맞았으니까 너도 썩어지게 때려줘야지. 자의 첫 자세가 야수성이야.
From then on, Goni is either being beaten or on his way to be beaten. After all, to become a beast, the first thing to do is to overcome fear. After being beaten day and night, Goni finally masters the knack.
씹새끼. 머리를 써야지.
And so, Goni successfully becomes Pyong's disciple. After the official lesson begins, Goni first demonstrates his self-taught technique. According to the method of dealing one card up and one card down, he can accurately deal himself a pair of 8s. The other hand is a 9 and a 10. But after Pyong flips the cards, the original 9 turns into a 10. Looking at the teacher's empty hands, Goni is filled with shock.
어떻게 하신 겁니까?
Pyong does not keep him in suspense and directly explains the technique to Goni. It is the hand movement that must be faster than what the eyes see. Then he draws out the card Goni wants. The miraculous card technique instantly subverts Goni's understanding. To quickly master this card technique, Goni holds cards every day from morning to night, even while sleeping, until thick calluses form on his hands. He can finally control the cards as he wishes. Little does he know, this is just the beginning. He learns from Pyong that besides him, there are two other top swindlers in Korea. One ear from Gyeongsang Province and Ogui from Jeolla Province. These two once gamble against each other. The former loses and has an ear cut off, which is how he gets this moniker. Now, Ogui's biggest wish is to take off one of Pyong's hands.
보라, 잘렸니? 어? 아기는 지금도 날 쫓아다니고 있어. 이때쯤 네가 그걸 알아야 되는데. 내가 누구냐? 화투를 거의 아티의 경지로 끌어올려서 내가 화투가 나인 모라 일체의 경지, 응? 혼이 담긴 구라, 응? 응?
근데요, 그런 분이 왜 이런 집에 사십니까?
어째 내가 땅만 사면 거기만 땅값이 떨어져. 다 보인다.
된다, 야. 항상 붙이고 다니라.
Time flies, and 1.5 years pass in the blink of an eye. At this time, Goni learns all the card skills. The only thing lacking is applying them to real combat. So Pyong takes him out to travel, and their first stop is Pohang. The venue here has a characteristic: before starting, they lock companions in other rooms. The purpose is to deny debts when they lose a lot. Pyong knows this well. His purpose for coming here is to let Goni know the second rule of gambling. He must always pay attention to his back. Immediately after, Pyong takes Goni to Nongsan. The stall here is very simple. It is set up directly inside a livestock carriage. And the gamblers are farmers who come to trade. But Pyong does not care about these. He even leaves half of the money he wins. And this is exactly the third principle he wants to teach Goni. Pyong tells him not to be too selfish. After returning to the inn, Goni initiates a challenge. He wants to test the gap between himself and his teacher. But just as they prepare to start, panting sounds that make one blush suddenly come from next door. Seeing the teacher's gaze attracted, Goni immediately deals both their cards. Just like this, he wins a round against his master with his cleverness. But Pyong, as a top swindler, already knows his little tricks.
누나 돈 찾으면 하트 끊을 수 있겠니?
5배는 더 벌어야죠.
뭐 그러면 손가락이라도 철를래?
네?
좋아. 부산으로 가자.
누구예요?
너 도박의 꽃이 누군 줄 아니?
And what gambling flower is good at is precisely using the external environment to achieve victory. But Madame Zheng always plays the long game. Goni's small tricks are not even worth mentioning. This time she sets her sights on a retired general. As long as she can take him down, they each can get at least hundreds of millions.
누구예요? 보디가드?
건이라고 내 선수를 뛸라니? 난 바람이나 잡고
그렇게 실력이 좋아요?
다리 좋잖아.
그냥 젠틀해 보이는데.
젠틀은 이미 자연방을 치자기해놓고 밑장을 빼서 굿땡을 주더라고.
아, 누가요? 제가?
간다 새끼. 밑장을 빼면
Upon learning that Goni is Pyong's last disciple, Mrs. Zheng immediately comes to his side. Although she says nothing verbally, her every move reveals an intention to win him over. Late at night, Goni secretly finds Mrs. Zheng. He cannot resist such temptation. Not to mention the other party is Korea's top female gambler. However, he overlooks one thing. Often, the prettier the flower, the more poisonous it is. The appointed time, the three, following the pre-arranged signal, sweep away the general's entire fortune. But just as they prepare to end the card game, the desperate general, having lost badly, offers items as collateral. When he sees it as a beautiful revolver, Pyong quickly touches his nose to signal to stop. Never expects either of them to stop. At this moment, he realizes his apprentice is already taken down by the gambling master. But since things have come to this, Pyong can only continue to play along with them. And the result is just as he expects. As soon as the card game ends, the general tells his subordinate to call someone upstairs. But what he never expects is that the subordinate not only fails to bring the person, but instead holds a knife to his neck.
소리 내면 죽는다. 손가락도 까딱하십니다.
김수장 너 왜 그래?
장군님, 원래 등잔밑이 더 뜨거운 법이랍니다.
After leaving the manor, Pyong can no longer suppress the anger in his heart. Madame Zheng completely violates the agreement between them. And people like them, who make a living by their skills, must stay away from such trouble-making things if they want to live longer. Madame Zheng understands the hidden meaning, but she does not intend to give up. Instead, she extends an olive branch to Goni. Recalling Madame Zheng's gentleness, coupled with the unimaginable huge dividends, Goni cannot help but hesitate. He ultimately chooses to obey his master's command. As they are about to leave, Pyong, however, makes him fulfill what he said earlier. Seeing that the master insists, Goni directly draws a dagger and goes to the restroom. However, the moment intense pain strikes, the knife in his hand can no longer press down. Just then, a man in white suddenly walks up from behind.
얘기할래. 그거 못 자른다.
뭐야? 너랑 안 가?
다 때 되면 남들이 알아서 잘라줄 거인지. 그거 그냥 놔둬라.
아이씨, 아저씨 뭐냐고.
씨발, 뭔 통성이야.
Unconvinced, Goni starts cutting his finger again. But in the end, he still loses to the man. But before he can tell his master his thoughts, a familiar voice comes from not far away. Listening to the two men's heated conversation, Goni is very curious about the man's identity. He learns from Pyong that the man is the top swindler Ogui. Ang that his master notices his finger. Goni explains that this is the only way to earn money in the future. He cannot cut off his own path. Pyong is not surprised by this answer. So he reminds Goni, Madame Jung is a beautiful knife. He must be extremely careful when wielding her. After saying this, he takes his luggage and boards the train. As they part ways, Pyong imparts his final principle to Goni. He says there are no true friends in life, just as there are no true enemies. After seeing his master off, Goni immediately finds Madame Jung. The two officially begin their dual partnership in business and life. Madame Jung is responsible for finding suitable targets. Goni is responsible for leading the team to win the card games. With their tacit cooperation, the two quickly earn a fortune. But Goni does not squander the money. Instead, he hides all of it in the trunk. He saves it to compensate his older sister later. However, plans never keep up with changes. One day, Madame Jung finds a professor. When he learns the professor wants to gamble to raise money for his daughter's surgery, Goni feels a pang of compassion. So he does not make a move throughout the game. But not everyone is like him and his master. So all the money on the table goes into the hands of other team members. Watching the professor's desperate retreating figure, he hesitates for a few seconds, then grabs a handful of money and chases after him.
그 하트 치지 마세요. 다음번에 여기 또 오시면 나한테 죽습니다. 고맙습니다.
What Goni never expects is that the professor turns around and returns to the casino. Unable to contain his anger, he wants to act, but Madame Jung stops him. His moment, Goni finally realizes that no matter who it is, or for what purpose, as long as they participate in gambling, they are dragged into the abyss by a sense of false hope. Just as Goni comes to terms with it, Madame Jung's subordinate suddenly walks over. After answering the phone, Goni freezes on the spot. He learns from the police that Pyong is permanently disabled and falls off a train to his death on his way back. Recalling the scene when they part, Goni concludes that Ogui kills his master. But Madame Jung refuses to provide any information, citing that she does not want him to die in vain. An enraged Goni does not think much and directly finds Mr. Zhao, a private detective in the circle, to help investigate Ogui's whereabouts. After arranging everything, Goni once again throws himself into the gambling game, as the reward the other party wants is not a small sum. What he does not expect is that this time, one of the targets is a fellow gambler. But Goni does not expose him. Instead, he silently watches the man perform. Just as the man prepares to collect the money, a piercing alarm suddenly rings through the room. Madame Jung hastily brings out her well-established connections, but the police remain completely unmoved. Soon, the gamblers and staff are brought out. Goni sees that the situation is not right, so he immediately chooses to leave through the window, taking his companion with him. Terror successfully escaping the police encirclement. The man voluntarily confesses his identity as a swindler. But Goni does not intend to get close to him. To get rid of this talkative companion, he can only reluctantly display his card skills. Unexpectedly, Guang Ryul is not scared off. Instead, he proposes the idea of cooperation.
그 날씬비로운 기술과 그 동생의 깡다구를 합치면은 우리는 걸어다니는 중소기업이야. 응? 전국 팔도를 유람하면서 타짜 뺏겨먹지, 호구 뺏겨먹지, 응? 여자도 뺏겨먹는다니까. 응?
많이 뺏겨 먹어 드세요.
아, 대한민국 인맥인데.
When he hears that Guang Ryul has extensive connections, Goni immediately accepts the invitation. He wants to find Ogui in his own way. Immediately after, the two arrive in Seoul, where they learn from Guang Ryul that the casino owner has a very good relationship with Ogui. As long as they can make Kwok lose badly, Ogui definitely appears to help. With their tacit cooperation, the casino quickly loses 200 million. What Goni never expects is that after they attract Kwok's attention, The person he sends is Mosok, whom they have not seen in 2 years. He also specifically tells people to stand next to them. Seeing the dagger tucked into the man's waist, Guang Ryal instantly gets scared out of his wits and then even considers backing out. Today, Goni is no longer who he used to be, even without using card tricks. He can still outsmart Mozal. Once the game officially begins, Goni loses 6 hands in an instant. However, he calmly sips his wheat juice. Only after losing the 7th hand, Goni immediately leans forward and shoves the cards in his hand into Mozok's pocket.
이거 뭐야 이 새끼야! 삥이네 삥삥! 야 어쩐지 이게 삥이 안 보이더라고. 야, 아니 회장님, 아니 관계가 없을 수가 없어요. 아니 너 이 새끼 너 머릿속에서 와투짝이 나왔는데 개소리야.
As Goni speaks, he pulls out a machete, explaining that according to the rules of this business, anyone caught cheating red-handed, those involved in the gamble can settle the score. He thinks this will make the other party compromise. But Kwok never responds. Clearly, he prefers to abandon Mosok and keep the money. At a critical moment, the walkie-talkie suddenly rings. When he hears the police have arrived at the foot of the mountain, Kwok finally reacts.
어이, 젊은 친구. 신사답게 행동해.
대신 이 돈은 우리가 먹습니다. 신사답게.
오로무야, 다시 와.
아, 혁천 양반. 어디 가서 해장국이라도 한 그릇 사서 드셔야지. 돈 잃으면 속쓰린 법이라며.
야, 내가 좀 회장님 모시고
가만.
나가고. 나하고 마이크 갖고 와.
혹시 니 가구 창고?
하나 둘.
Afterward, Goni and Guang Ryal arrive at a restaurant, initially planning to leave after eating and return at the agreed-upon time. But after seeing the restaurant owner, Goni instantly changes his mind. Her sexy and hot figure, combined with her delicate face, makes her his ideal choice for a perfect wife. However, just as he is lost in thought, an urgent knocking sound comes from outside. Fearing it is the police, the owner quickly tells them to hide in the back room. Unexpectedly, the people who arrived turn out to be Kwok and his subordinates. And they also threaten the 2 sisters with debt to accompany them for drinks. Seeing Kwok's subordinate grab the sister, Goni can no longer suppress his anger. He directly pushes Guang Ryal out. Fortunately, Kwok is a man who follows rules. He does not take the opportunity to make things difficult for the 2 of them. He just tells them to remember the agreed-upon time. Seeing this, Goni immediately tells the sister to pay the bill. Then he even publicly lies that the 2 of them are on a date. To avoid arousing Kwok's suspicion, Goni and Guang Ryal rent a luxury car and return to the restaurant. When he learns that the 2 sisters owe money because they opened a restaurant, Goni immediately goes to a nearby casino, intending to use his card skills to win back the sisters' debt. At first, the plan goes very smoothly. But just as it is about to end, he is unexpectedly outsmarted by a disabled man. Goni is somewhat incredulous. He clearly deals the man 2 single cards. So how could they become a pair? Unwilling to admit defeat, he wants to gamble again. However, he is rejected by the opponent. Goni directly pulls off the man's wig. When he discovers that the man is One Ear, one of the 3 top con artists, he immediately lowers his stance and humbly asks about this rare card skill. One Ear does not keep him in suspense. He directly reveals the key technique he gained by sacrificing his hand and ear. That is when he cheats. He must never look into his opponent's eyes. Goni wants to know more about Ogui. Unexpectedly, One Ear immediately pretends to fall asleep. Clearly, Ogui leaves an indelible shadow on him. Seeing this, Goni can only leave helplessly. But just then, a familiar figure suddenly walks by not far away. He quickly gets out of the car and chases after her. However, he happens to see Hualan getting scolded. After the person in charge leaves, Goni secretly enters the bridal shop. He learns that Hualan has been working part-time here. He immediately comforts her in a soft voice. Then, he even volunteers to be a practice model. Just like that, Goni successfully wins over the goddess he has been longing for. And the peaceful life of several consecutive days reminds him of his family far away in Namwan. But he does not know how to face his older sister. So he asks Guang Ryal to send the money back. But he does not expect that his mother and older sister have never blamed him. Instead, They worry about how he is doing now. Meanwhile, Madame Zheng, who has just been released from prison, has already found a new target. The man is a 52-year-old second-generation rich. He is arrogant and loves sports. He likes to hear others say he is young. He owns $10 billion in real estate. He plans to acquire 3 buildings and 15 ships. To ensure the plan proceeds smoothly, Madame Zheng unhesitatingly decides to go herself. The others wait for an opportunity to approach the target. With their tacit cooperation, the two quickly establish a romantic relationship. But now they still need to solve a problem, which is to find a swindler who can control the game. During this time, Madame Zheng interviews many people, but none can compare to the figure in her mind. In desperation, she can only send her subordinates to find Mr. Zhao. When she learns Goni is currently in Seoul, she rushes to the restaurant without delay. But after she states her purpose for coming, Goni unhesitatingly refuses. Seeing Hualan's eyes full of admiration, Madame Zheng instantly understands everything. But she does not give up. Instead, she directly calls Mr. Zhao's number. Immediately after, Goni receives news that his car is stolen. Although he understands Madame Zheng is behind it, what is more important now is to avenge his master. As for the funding issue, Goni directly approaches Mosok. He promises him that if he helps provide cover, he will receive a 20% share of the profits. Mosok, who always prioritizes profit, immediately agrees. Finally, with the three of them working together seamlessly, Goni tricks Kwok with a box of paper. He then wins another 500 million in cash. Unexpectedly, Kwok is not angry at all. Instead, he extends an olive branch to him. As expected, he rejects the offer. Afterward, the two men take the money and arrive at the subway station. To prevent Kwok from acting out of desperation, Goni decides they should split up. The reality is exactly as he expects. As soon as Guang Ryal leaves, Kwok's men pursue him. Caught off guard, he is stabbed directly in the abdomen. Goni tries to escape. However, he cannot shake off his pursuers. When he opens his eyes, he is already thrown into a box. Next to him is Mosok, whose face is covered in blood. In his panic, Goni accidentally escapes. Mosok, however, met a fatal accident due to the machine. What makes him even more desperate is that Kwok, who cannot find the other half of the money, controls the two sisters in the restaurant. In his desperation, Goni can only go to negotiate with the other party.
대신 제가 2년 동안 회장님 밑에서 열심히 일하겠습니다.
Kwok gladly agrees, as long as he can have Goni. He has countless amounts of 500 million. After he has his subordinates release the two sisters, impatient Kwok immediately takes Goni to find the casino. However, he overlooks one thing. Without the threat of hostages, how could Goni possibly obey? Eventually, the car loses control and crashes out. Kwok and his subordinates, caught off guard, die on the spot. Thus, Goni successfully lures out Ogui as he wished. Meanwhile, Mr. Zhao finally gets a new lead. According to the witness's testimony, the person who attacked Pyong that day had several gold teeth in his mouth. Just then, Madame Zheng's subordinate brings the reward. The moment Mr. Zhao looks up, he is completely stunned. He never expected that the woman in front of him is the one who orchestrated all of this. To save his own life, Mr. Zhao gets up and leaves without even taking the reward. That night, Ogui and Kwok's men come knocking. When she learns they are looking for Goni, Madame Zheng quickly defends him. Currently, the rich second-generation situation reaches a critical moment. She absolutely does not allow any accidents to happen. Not to mention Goni, the main character. Ogui already knows her plan and uses it to blackmail her. He threatens that if she does not hand over Goni, he will tell the media about it, making it impossible for Madame Zheng to continue her life in Korea. Seeing that there is no room for negotiation, Madame Zheng immediately gets up and returns to her room, while Ogui wisely follows her. He knows very well that as Korea's top gambler, Madame Zheng does not develop feelings for anyone, and everything she does is for profit. He is the same. His revenge for Kwok is only for the money in Goni's hands.
그동안 들인 공이 있으니까 호구도는 5대5로 가자고?
손이 걸치네. 8대2. 내가 8을. 싫으면 법대로.
법? 아직도 그런 뜨뜻미지근한 걸 믿어? 호구한테는 날 기술자라 소개시켜주고 방석 하나 깔아? 작업하자고 그럼.
Soon after, Guang Ryul is invited to join a gambling game with a few people. Unaware of the situation, he thinks he has found a big fish, but Ogui catches him cheating, and he ends up with the same fate as 1 year. Soon, the news spreads throughout the entire circle. When he learns his good brother's hand is crippled by Ogui, Goni directly smashes the cast on his arm. Then he immediately returns to Busan. Under Madame Zheng's leadership, he finally sees Ogui again. Immediately after, the captain brings Goni to the storage room. Seeing his good brother's miserable state, Goni can no longer suppress the anger in his heart. Unexpectedly, Guang Ryul tells him to leave quickly and not to think about revenge anymore. Clearly, Ogui also leaves a trauma on him. But Goni turns and walks into the room. This time, he is determined to kill Ogui. However, after the game begins, Goni feels a deep sense of powerlessness, because he simply cannot see through the opponent's cards. Then Ogui sends the rich second generation away, clearly wanting to speed up the game. After a new round begins, Goni inadvertently hums his master's incantation. Unexpectedly, Ogui actually asks about Pyong's whereabouts.
죽었어?
어쩌다가?
기차에서 떨어졌다네.
Oni instantly realizes something is wrong, but he does not make a fuss. Instead, he continues to deal car and also uses his most skilled card techniques.
나 그만 밑장 빼기냐?
뭐야?
내 패하고 정마담 패를 밑에서 뺐지. 내가 빙다리 핫바지라 보이냐 이 새끼야.
증거 있어?
증거? 증거 있지? 너는 나한테 굿땡을 줬을 것이요. 그리고 정마담한테 주려는 거 이거 장짜리 아니야? 자 모두 잘 보쇼. 정마담한테 장땡을 줘서 이 판을 끝내겠다. 이거 아니야?
시나리오 쓰고 있네 미친 새끼가.
예림이 그 배 봐봐. 혹시 장이야?
배 건들지 마! 손모가지 날라가 본 게. 해머 갖고 와.
Madame Zheng sees this and quickly makes a symbolic attempt to stop him. But at this moment, Goni proposes to gamble on this, and the stake is their two right hands. Looking at Goni's eyes, Ogui unhesitatingly agrees. Immediately after, their hands are tied, but after he picks up the card, he freezes in place. He never imagined that someone would actually deliberately deal him bad cards. But just as Madame Zheng prepares to take the money and leave, Goni calls out to everyone.
그걸 어떻게 알았어?
그거 당연히 오른팔일 거라고. 아니야?
왜 죽였어?
나한테 소리치지 마! 왜 이래? 왜 이래?
Seeing Madame Zheng still arguing, Goni directly pushes her down. Then he pours a whole bucket of oil onto the pile of money. After Goni leaves, Madame Zheng rushes to put out the fire. Meanwhile, Golden Tooth threatens his attendant to cut off Agui's hand. Seeing the fire growing, Madame Zheng immediately grabs the pistol and chases after him. She threatens Goni to leave the other half of the money, but all she gets is a cold back. An enraged Madame Zheng directly pulls the trigger. Fortunately, it does not hit Goni's vital spot. Just then, Mr. Zhao, who is responsible for the pickup, arrives. Goni endures the pain and helps Guang Ryul into the car. As the three people leave, urgent police sirens sound on the dock. But this time, Madame Zheng gives up the chance to escape. On the other side, Goni takes Guang Ryul to the hospital. After settling Mr. Zhao, he hastily leaves to see his beloved as soon as possible. He gets on the train without even treating his wound. Just then, Kwok's subordinate suddenly appears in front of him. Goni endures the pain, gets up, and fights back. Although he successfully pushes him off the car, he also gets caught on the carriage. As the money in his bag gets blown away by the wind, Goni's greed completely vanishes. At the end of the film, Madame Zheng gets taken to the morgue. When she learns it is Goni's body, She nods with a face full of sorrow. As Kwok's subordinate's arm is revealed. At this moment, the pit of greed is finally filled.